How far can Kevin Durant take this Phoenix Suns team?
Evidently not that far. Evidently.
I'm saying for Kevin Durant to get uncomfortable. If you're not used to leading with your voice, this team actually needs you to lead with your voice.
Everybody was quick to jump on the bandwagon.
Kevin Durant, with all his greatness, is going to be talked about as the guy who left Steph Curry for Kyrie Irving.
O'Neal to Booker, gives it up, Durant, corner three for the tie, and he got it! Kevin Durant right in front of the Phoenix bench!
But he lost. Or maybe he's been lost.
It's crazy to see somebody say they travel so long to come see their favorite player play in the Olympics. They spend their money, they bring their whole family. Like, it's just dope to me. The game just saved my life, so it brought me and my family out of a lot of bullshit, so I'm just like grateful for it. For real.
Just a hooper. There was once a time when he was 1 foot away from the promised land. Another where he was one misstep away from a three-peat. Did we mention 1 game away from an altered legacy? Or what about when a bunch of 20-year-olds almost won the finals? Does any of this change picking Greg Oden ahead of him at Texas?
No.
You see, we're in the modern NBA, and that calls for tarnishing a player's career until they flip the narrative once and for all. Some would reflect in year 17 of one of the greatest basketball resumes we have ever seen that the jury is still out. Most overrated and selfish player of all time. Bro was on Twitter, it's actually called X now, more than trying to be a leader for this disappointing Suns team. I always knew the saying, "it will never be enough," is a recurring theme for sports athletes, but then Gen Z came along and told the world you have to play past 40 to gain some of our respect. I even had to X that myself. But the point I'm trying to make in this video is the past is the present. LeBron really took age as just a number to new heights as he recruited the Avengers this summer to defend their title in France. Oh, sorry, did I forget to mention that KD never needed to be recruited, that he's been winning gold since what it should have been 2008 after that showcase, all the way until now. Add the leading scorer in Team USA's basketball history to that overrated snake resume. I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. Can't believe I clicked on a video just to hear another KD fan defend his idol. Either hate him or love him, there is no denying that he embodies the sport of basketball to the absolute fullest, even coming back from a career-ending injury and somehow putting up better efficiency numbers. Of course there is criticism that happens at the top of every profession, and some of it is undoubtedly warranted. But today we will be talking about the things that they don't or even won't tell you about Kevin Durant. For starters, number 35 is in honor of his former AAU coach who was tragically murdered at age 35. Sometimes it's not just about doing your job, but having a why. Sky's really the limit. We already recited his career moments, but let's go to that first showcase in 2007 we briefly mentioned. Jimmy High Roller actually made a video talking about this, so if you want the full story, definitely go check it out. But essentially what happened was KD put up 24 points in a game with prime Kobe, LeBron, Jason Kidd, all playing to win. He didn't just show up, he made the whole NBA rethink what they were looking for in a player. And the reality is there just aren't many tall guys with a consistent jumper, and even to this day, we have rarely seen anything like it. What doesn't get talked about enough is KD remains as one of the only players to never average below 20 points per game in his career. Pair this with the young flying Russell Westbrook in 2008, then a rookie James Harden and Serge Ibaka in 2009, where they managed to get 50 wins as a team. You want to know the reward for 50 wins? They barely scratched the 8th seed where they are set to play the eventual champion Lakers. So to keep it simple, we are going to split this video into 3 parts. This one, if you couldn't already tell, is the situation. Let's just call it circumstances, okay? The second part, which we will get into more later, is teammates / management, because we all know KD has had some great teammates in his tenure at different parts in his career. Management, not so much. And this kind of ties into the third component, which is decision making, choices let's call it. What could he have done differently where, and maybe some evidence behind those decisions. It's his life, we can't control it, but in hindsight, as the media seems to remind us every day, what could have panned out differently when. Now, going back to this segment, the average age of this team was 23 years old, where the second-year pro out of Texas averaged 30 a game and came second in MVP voting. Do y'all not realize how hard it was to score 30 back then? There were two people at all times packed in the paint, and teams knew at this point in their careers he was the only one that could hurt them, especially from the perimeter. Long story short, these dudes pretty much lost on a buzzer beater in game 6, almost took this team to 7, where I'm not saying they would have won, but either way, just in saying that a 21-year-old pretty much mirrored a prime Kobe's numbers. And for those podcasters out there,
stop talking about KD like he this legendary demon. No, he is in his playoffs. He's legendary. No.
Is this not legendary?
So Kobe Bryant broke his hand and he did that. That's what legendary players do.
I know he didn't win, but Kobe literally said himself, KD is the toughest player I've guarded. I retired not being able to figure him out. Moving on, OKC is an updated starting lineup. They win 5 more games and they finish as the 4th seed. KD averages 32 a game on 47% field goal shooting and 43% from 3, which was pretty much unheard of at this time, and eventually knock Denver out in 5. Then take out a very well-coached Memphis team in 7, where I will give credit when it's due. Westbrook and Harden both had pretty amazing series. This was Dirk's Cinderella story run where they beat OKC in 5. Absolutely no shame in that, considering they ran through the Heat in 5 as well. So now both times OKC lost, they lost to the eventual champions. There are also numerous simulations on YouTube about who had the harder career path. Was it KD or LeBron? But the takeaway should be, as of right now, this OKC team has so much talent and got the short end of the stick. 2012 was one of the most important KD years up to this date, but for reasons you may not realize, yes, this was the lockout year where he came second in MVP voting again. There are certain intangibles that you just don't see in other players that most have ranked above him. We all heard about the famous Rucker Park game where KD drops 71 points. I still can't believe that's real to this day. And I know not really an accomplishment to his legacy, but that and going toe-to-toe with LeBron, and not just the finals, but in the Drew League, we're looking at them head-to-head. A lot of people thought KD had an edge or was a better basketball player. Most right off the 2012 NBA Finals, but look how close every one of these games are. It wasn't just KD, but Westbrook had a career-defining Game 4. All of Miami's role players were just so battle-tested with experience, knocking down clutch after clutch shot. But for KD, went toe-to-toe again with the consensus best player in the world, also the reigning MVP. And yes, if he would have won, there would be a huge power shift in the NBA, and we would be looking at the next dynasty. But I think they were just happy to beat that insane Spurs team in 2012. Proceeding further, OKC makes one of the worst decisions I've ever seen a front office do, because it's not just about losing Harden. This team had absolutely no spacing whatsoever, and this is ultimately one of the reasons KD decided to leave. Management failed to fill that void for the next 4 years combined, with there being a plethora of unfortunate injuries that caused the Thunder to never make it over the hump. They lost Russ against the Grizzlies in 2013, where so many people criticized KD for this series. But if this is considered one of your chokes or one of your worst series, clearly you're doing something right. Comes back with a vengeance, wins MVP with Russ being out for 30 games. They beat a very tough Clippers team in 2014. Where the playoffs, they then lose Serge Ibaka for 2 games in the Western Conference Finals versus the Spurs, which is probably the reason they lost, if we're being honest, because that game 6 was a nail biter. Then again, maybe KD could have shot the ball a bit better efficiency wise, but not really seeing how he can be blamed for any of this these last 6 years, as he had a historic season, probably the most underrated MVP season of the decade. 2015 is a write-off. Situation really comes into effect because if he were in the East at this current period, things could have been drastically different, especially with decision makings moving forward. Then, we all know in 2016, blowing a 3-1 lead, very tough. The Warriors eventually figured out that they could double KD pretty much every possession and leave everyone open except Serge Ibaka. But the takeaway is you expect him to be the best player on the floor, and the reality is that was Steph Curry. Come to mention, they did beat a really crazy 66-win Spurs team that no one seems to talk about. Man, the West really was insane. Now that we've hit 10 minutes, I think it's time we talk about the decision. V2, do I agree with it? No, I think you should have come to Toronto.
I don't give a damn about no damn Drake night.
Come on, man, that's your favorite team growing up. But I can tell you what is true. He definitely earned the right to leave, especially with the front office not really catering to his needs regarding the starting lineup. I think the reasons he listed later on are pretty valid, but leaving to the team that beat you will always be a black spot on his career. Perhaps this is part of why he is the most disrespected superstar in maybe sports history, but it's hard to evaluate, man. Look at the way people talk about him after having one of the best decades we have ever seen a player have. I just think the whole way we value and rank players is just so flawed. You're in this league to win a championship, yes, but putting all this recency bias above him is just borderline blasphemy. In no world is someone like Jokic, Giannis, Curry, now that's up for serious debate, but putting these guys above him all time without second thought is really a lackluster argument. The GOAT debate, right? We argue LeBron because of his longevity, being first on pretty much every statistical list that exists. But when are we gonna mention his longevity? Personally, I have to see 5 to 10 more years of all the current best players in the league develop before even putting them on some type of all-time list. Recency bias and old heads talking down on players is hurting the NBA, man, and this is probably why I'm making this video. Always so quick to write someone off looking for the new best thing, but I'm here to remind you history doesn't go away. With that being said, yes, 2 finals MVPs that were well deserved against one Cavs team who actually matched up pretty evenly, the exception just being 4 All-Stars. But 2018, of course, was just a full-blown conclusion with the 4-0 sweep. 2019 was shaping up to be KD's best year in the Bay, players aging a bit like Iggy and Livingston, but still ran through everyone in the West, with the exception Golden State did win that Game 6 against Houston without him. And do we even need to address the finals? Duke came back Game 5 down 3-1, torching the Raptors in the little minutes he played. And in my opinion, as a Toronto fan, his contributions early are the reason they got to Game 6. Regardless, this three-peat would have been special, but it didn't happen. He saw the opportunity to go play with Kyrie Irving for another team, even though he sat the full next year. I want you guys to listen to this part carefully, because Brooklyn was the place. I never gave credit to role players such as Bruce Brown, Claxton, even Joe Harris before he sold that series, but they honestly did a great job holding their own, at least on defense. Even before the Harden trade, I really liked this team. This starting lineup had so much potential and a good coach in Kenny Atkinson. I'm not gonna lie, KD, I do not know what the hell you were thinking wanting to get rid of Kenny for Steve Nash, who had no experience on any level. By far the worst coach I've ever seen, and amazed they were as good as they were. A lot of people don't know these two actually worked out together rehabbing pretty much every day in Golden State, so there was a good relationship there. But when you have Kyrie saying we don't even need a coach and DeAndre Jordan should start when he clearly shouldn't have, I can start to see how this wouldn't have worked out. But they have James Harden running through everyone.
Harden has just gone to the locker room after appearing to injure his right hamstring.
He gets injured. Can I just mention, for those who only focus on Game 5 or 7, they torched the Bucks by 39 with just 2 of them and had a really good chance to win Game 3. This is peak KD, even post-injury, wanting to take the late game shots and not just being a role player, setting him up for failure. Ladies and gentlemen, he has had some good playoff games over the time of his career, but nothing compares to this Game 5. This is the 3rd best playoff performance we have ever seen from a player according to game score in the modern NBA. This team should have had no chance. Jeff Green going berserk definitely did help, but the Bucks had 1 to 5, could switch everything and just blitz this offense. However, when you see a player of this caliber that can shoot over everyone if he wanted to, you get one of the greatest stat lines I've ever seen. Game 6 played pretty well, but wasn't enough to take them out in their home gym. A damn foot, bro. Diehard fans know it shouldn't have got to this point. Had all the momentum in that 4th, KD has 40 plus again, but not one adjustment from Steve Nash. Is it his fault he didn't score in overtime? Yes, but how is he supposed to when the players who are actually making contributions are playing limited minutes in the biggest game of their lives? Not to mention Giannis, who everyone considered above him after this game, didn't score till the last minute either. Middleton was the closer of this team. The Bucks go on to win an incredible championship against his current team, the Phoenix Suns, which the Nets would have definitely at least seen the finals. They go into next year writing it back, but trade Harden mid-season because Kyrie and the vaccine plague goes on for the whole year, and only end up with a 7th seed. KD gets stifled in this series, leaves a lot of people shocked, including myself, but still manages to average 26, 6, and 6 a game. And I love how people ride Kyrie for that one great game, even though he played just as bad throughout. To be honest, I would put this on the category of LeBron's meltdown in 2011 and Steph's in 2016. But that's the consequence of being great. It happens to the best of us. 2023 comes around where Kyrie is in the midst of his spirit journey. I think they made some great additions. As I mentioned in a previous video a while ago, KD kept them afloat at the start of the season. Then they proceeded to go 18-2 when Kyrie returns. Out of nowhere, wants the dip. How does the dude that's been doing your job for you the last 2 years deserve this? He is one of the greatest ever lace up and has played every time he's been healthy enough to play, but it isn't good enough. This team had so many chances. Cam Thomas dropped 43 straight games. With that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video because it's way deeper than basketball. These people are humans as well. They're not God, even though KD claims himself to be. Phoenix doesn't even deserve a commentary with this prick. I think they do have a chance if they play the right pieces around their actual stars to make some sort of run in the playoffs. They have actually won the last few games with KD just 42-38. Why put it in the video though? It's routine. Can keep everyone updated with that. Just let me know on Discord or any socials what videos will be good to upload. My DMs are always open. And as always, take it easy. Peace.